Hi, Amy here with Life's Rabbit Hole, and this is the companion video for lesson number 6 in the ebook Millionaire Mentors and the Lessons They Taught Me. And this lesson is centered around building wealth. Now there are two key factors, two types of knowledge you really want to have to build wealth. And before I get into those two, I want to share with you a little bit about my background so you know why I'm so passionate about this topic. You see, I grew up in a trailer park. And not one of those kind of trailer parks where you drive by and you look at it and it looks clean and quaint and all of that and you think, that doesn't look too bad. No, we're talking about the type of trailer park where you drive by and when you look at it, it makes you a little bit sadder just that it's there on the road. And you're probably wondering what it must be like to live there. And most likely whatever you're thinking is pretty accurate or worse. So that's where I grew up. I mean, we're talking, I didn't go on the school trip to Washington, D.C. with the rest of my classmates because I couldn't come up with the student portion of the funding to go. I never got a class ring when I was a senior because they couldn't afford a class ring. There was a time when my family was using food stamps to buy groceries because that's the only means of buying food that we had. And there were a few times in grade school and junior high where I was sent home with lice because that's the kind of environment I grew up in. Now, when I compare that to the life that I have now, it's like night and day. I am so grateful. I'm in a position now where I have a wonderful home, a wonderful husband. We love to travel the world. We get to see new places, try new things, meet new people. We're able to invest in ourselves. So just like a lot of the people that are in the ebook that we've written, that we've learned from, we're able to attend the events that we want to attend, to learn from the great masters. We are able to give back to charity. I mean, last year alone, we donated to over 10 different charities, and we're able to help our families when they need it, which is great, do wonderful things for our friends. I mean, it's funny because it's absolutely true that money doesn't buy happiness or can't buy happiness, but when you're in a happy mindset already, and then you have the funding to do those things that you want to do, to help other people and to enjoy your life the way you want to enjoy it, it does make a difference. I mean, as far as just having the opportunity to do certain things. So given the choice between how I grew up and how I live now, absolutely, there's no question. I choose how I live now. And I want to share some stuff with you because if you're at all thinking that you want to improve the level of wealth you have as well, or be able to do more things for yourself or others, or however you want to put it in terms, I want to be able to help you do that because I think there's enough out there for all of us. It's not like there's only a certain amount and then we each get our portion. I think it's an abundant resource. And so people can have as much as they want, as much as they're willing to work for and develop themselves for. And it doesn't take away from anybody else. So I think it'd be great if we all had the opportunity to do the things that we want to do. Now remember, there are two types of knowledge you need to have in order to build wealth. And the first one is financial literacy. And that is a term I got from Robert Kiyosaki when I read his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Basically, the idea is you just want to be more educated when it comes to money and financial things. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to, go to college for finance. I'm not an expert in all things money related, but I've read enough books and been to enough seminars and talked to enough people that could share with me their ideas to know more about money now than I ever did before. I know more about different types of investments. So that's the kind of stuff you want to learn. Just learn about me. I read a book that just talked about how money was ever even invented because I just wanted to have more knowledge about money and financial options and that sort of stuff. So that's the first thing. And it's really simple. Like I said, pick up some books. I read The Wealthy Barber. It's a great book. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I mean, there's so many people out there now that have a resources, not only things that you can buy, but there are many things online now that are free resources to help you improve your financial literacy. So there's no reason that you can't do it. You just got to go find it and take the time and make the choice to learn more about that aspect of your life. The second type of knowledge is just knowing your own numbers, believe it or not. And this is such a simple thing, but when I've worked with people in the past and how to improve their finances, this is always the starting point, and it's amazing how many people don't know the answers. So for example, if I asked you, how much a month exactly are your expenses? Could you answer that question, or would you have to go and look things up? Can you tell me how much exactly you spent in the last month or two on entertainment or eating out or anything like that? And it's not that you have to have those numbers memorized, but if you haven't actually ever sat down and figured that out or tracked it so that you would know that number, it's going to be a lot harder to make improvements because you don't even really know your starting point. And by the way, I'm not saying that you can't spend money. You should be able to spend money on entertaining yourself and going out or watching movies or going out to eat when you want to or buying gifts for the people you care for or whatever. I'm not saying in order to build wealth that you can't do those things, but I am saying that you need to know what your available amount is that you can do those things with, and you need to know how much you're spending now already to do those things, because oftentimes we're actually spending more than we realize. I remember in college how many times I'd have cash in my pocket and then I'd go out with some friends, and then the next day I'm like, where did that 50 go? Did I actually spend? I don't even remember spending that. Like, what do we do? And then you start walking through it like, oh yeah, we went to that restaurant and then we went there, and then it's like you start adding it up and you're like, oh my gosh, and you don't even realize you were doing it while you were doing it. Because in order to build wealth, it's really a combination of two things. One is you have to know what your income is, which is pretty easy to figure out for most people, right? So you gotta know your income, and then you have to know your expenses, right? Because income minus expenses, that's what's left over, and what's left over is what you have at your discretion to build that wealth, essentially, right? The problem with so many people is that there's nothing left over, or it's even worse in that their income is here, but their expenses are here. And so they're actually going into debt as time goes on. They're never going to build wealth that way. So you have to know what your income is, what your expenses are, and then there has to be some discretionary income in between. And what you do with that is what will determine how quickly you build your wealth. If you can save that or a portion of that consistently every single month, it doesn't even matter whether it's $5 a month, $50 a month, $500 a month, whatever. It's a matter of starting it. If you don't have a lot of extra money right now, start it with a small amount, but just start doing it every single month, because it's really just about building the habit and the mindset of having that account so that you can use that to build wealth rather than constantly putting it off. I did that at one point in my life, and I was like, when I have more money, I'll save it when I have more, my income's gonna continue to go up. I mean, for the first 10 years I was in business after college, because I had opened my own business too, I did increase my income every single time. But if you always say to yourself, when I have more, then you'll never start. So you just have to say, I'm gonna start now. It doesn't matter how much I have. I'm gonna start with this much if I have to. And then you can increase it, because once you get that skill down, that habit, then when the income does increase or the expenses lower, whichever the case, that increases your discretionary income, then you can increase your savings because you'll already have that habit. It's just a matter of taking the numbers up a notch, right? So that's what's really important to know. Income, expenses, discretionary income, and then saving all or a portion of that you can, so that when you have opportunities for investing to make that money make money for you, then you've got some to use. So if you want to increase the discretionary income, there's only two ways to do it. One is you either increase your income, right? If income's here and expenses are here, you can increase your income because that makes that gap wider, or you can decrease your spending. Even if income's still here, you can decrease your spending, and that also widens that gap. And people don't often think about that, but that is definitely an effective way to increase your discretionary spending. There are times where we've had goals in the past, myself personally before I was married, and then now that we've been married, our goals together. And there are times where we cut out expenses because we're like, our goal this year is to save this much. We could really do without that, so we're just gonna cut that out because we know that the two ways are either to increase income or decrease expenses. Now for me, what I did over those 10 years where my income kept going up is that I kept the expenses at the same level. Because a lot of times when people do increase their incomes, like they increase their income, they increase their expenses, increase their income, increase their expenses. And I do that They still have discretionary income, hopefully, but it's not really getting any bigger because the expenses are going up with the income. I spent that first decade just increasing income, and keeping my expenses as low as possible. In fact, when I was a new business owner, my family was a little worried about some of the places I would choose to live because they were not the safest neighborhoods. To them, they thought I was going to get, injured or get mugged or whatever. And to me, my thought was, expenses are low. I'm keeping expenses low because that way I have that much more money left over to save. So that was my strategy. I'm not saying that has to be your strategy, but keeping expenses low is definitely an effective strategy to use. So the way you put the two together, of course, is as you increase your knowledge of your own numbers and managing those, which was the second type of knowledge that I talked about, and if you can couple that with increasing the knowledge, the financial literacy, just the knowledge of how money works and the options that you have, then when you have that discretionary savings, right, that you've got because you've been doing the right thing on that side, then you can learn and utilize the options on the other side of knowledge to build your wealth. It's really that simple. It can be. And the fact that I did it growing up with zero financial knowledge because my family didn't teach me anything about finances really, other than, it's not true, my dad taught me how to use a checkbook, and that's been very handy too, just how to track that kind of stuff. If I can do it from the trailer park to a place where I'm much more comfortable and have a lot more financial options, I know you can do it too. So if you haven't already, read the chapter that goes with this video because there's a lot of really good tips in that chapter on financial management. It can be one of those first things you do to increase that first type of knowledge, right? Financial literacy is read the chapter in the ebook that goes with this video. Then of course, feel free to send us any questions, comments, suggestions. We'd love to hear from you. You can do that by going to Life's Rabbit Hole and clicking on the contact link in the top right corner. Then shortly from now, you should be getting the next email with a link to the next video in the ebook companion series. And that one's going to be about understanding other people's point of view and how just that alone has a huge impact on communication skills with others. Thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I know it's valuable. And thank you for letting us at Life's Rabbit Hole join you on your journey through the doorway to your new world. And remember, only you can open that door for yourself, and by implementing the action steps, that's how you actually walk through it.